What are we going to call this podcast?
What we're going to call this, the James W. Richardson Intervention Podcast. Well, James, I find it sad to see you losing, because you've gone from being that person who has consistently won. How many leagues are we on now? 10?
This is season 11 that we're in.
I think, how many of those have you won before that? About 8?
Something
7?
like that, yeah. Perks has definitely won at least once, and so's Vic.
Yeah,
And
I've
you
won
won
one as well.
one. Yeah.
But you've barely won this year, and quite frankly, I think you're a big fat fish. So, what's going on?
Well, I guess that's what we're about to discover. Should we have a
you
look
gone from being a big shark in a little pond to a big fat fish in a little pond?
Maybe so.
Mm.
Should we have a look at exactly how bad things are?
Yes.
I've pulled together all the stats for the entire history of the home game. We are currently on season 11, tournament 5, so we've played 115 tournaments. And in the first 9 seasons, I won 29 times, which is 32% of tournaments, and finished outside the money 40% of the time. So 6 games in 10 I was cashing, and 3 games in 10 I was winning. And then if we have a look at season 10 onwards, the last 15 tournaments, I've only won twice, and finished third 3 other times. This is even more troublesome, because actually those 2 wins were tournament 1 and 2 of season 10. So I'm currently on a 13 tournament streak of not winning. Just to put that in a bit more context, I've got this rather nice timeline going all the way back to season 1, which shows where I finished every single tournament. So we can see early on I was winning a decent amount, and then as we come through the seasons, still doing okay. And then towards the end here, we see the start of this streak of bad performances. We've got this nice chart here that you might be familiar with. The green line is my winnings or losses over the period.
Mm-hmm.
The red line is what proportion of that was without showdown. So that means basically it was either a value bet that didn't get called, or it was a bluff.
Yeah.
But either way, there was no showdown. The blue line is my winnings or losses at showdown. So whenever both hands are shown, did you win, did you lose? And we can see that actually over my winning period, both my bluffs and showdowns were in the positive. If we have a look at the same thing on my losing period, here we are. We can see that on both my bluffs and value bets, I was losing, and the upshot of it is this green line here, which just shows me going through the floor. During my losing streak, I've been losing at 21.9 big blinds per 100, which are the stats of a complete fish. Even accounting for luck, I would still have been losing at 16 big blinds per 100. So whereas I should have been 51,000 chips better off than I was, which might have been enough for another win here or there, it's not like bad luck in itself accounts for the losing streak.
Yeah.
Four-handed situation is okay for me. I think basically me and you one of us were going to bubble probably.
Yeah, and you've got about 20 big blinds there.
Yep. So Vic raises it up. Pretty small raise from the button, but perfectly reasonable. Jack 10 off.
Yep.
I think this is a call. Maybe an ICM expert might tell me it's a fold, given that me and you are both short stacked. But I think in a cash game, this is definitely a call.
Yeah.
So call.
Because you've still got plenty of chips back as well. And then you get a flop like this, and you're obviously winning.
Well, it's a pretty good flop for Jack 10 normally.
Yeah.
I check because I always check in that spot. Vic continuation bets half pot, and without getting too deep into analysis, this could be a wide range of hands, many of which don't include a 10. So I don't think I should fold. I call. Turns a 5, pair in the board.
Good card for both of you.
Yeah. There is some argument for a bet from me here, I would say. Because I don't know how often Vic will bluff the turn if I check. And that 5's a pretty good card in a vacuum because not only do I have a 2 pair, but I think I'm much more likely to have a 5 than Vic is there, given that I called in the big blind. So Vic couldn't really raise, I don't think, if I'd had bet. And it means I'll get some value out of things like pocket 9s, ace 6. If you're in Vic's shoes and you're sat there with ace king and I bet, as long as I don't bet too big, I think that puts you in a really tough position.
Yeah, it does.
So maybe betting is a good play here, but I suspect that I checked. I did bet, okay, that's good. Big calls.
It's a hefty amount. What do you think of that amount? You bet
Yeah.
you pretty much pot committed yourself there.
Well, I'm not so worried about the pot committing element. It was 2/3 pot, which is probably too big because, well, as we just discussed, I'm trying to get a call out of ace king and ace queen and those kind of hands. I'm obviously fine if those hands fold, but maybe I want to price them in a bit. It's only 6 outs.
Yeah.
Ace queen or ace king, for example, is 6 outs, so maybe that was a bit too big. Big calls, and now we're here on the river. So the question is, do I chuck my last 2,500 chips in?
I mean, it doesn't. Popping a post-it note over Vic's cards right here, I see absolutely no reason for you to not chuck your chips in.
Yeah. I mean, if Vic had a6, for example, or pocket 9s, I don't think she's folding to this bet. The pot odds are too good, so Vic would only need to win 19% of the time to make this a good call. So I think worse hands will call. Obviously, all better hands will call as well. So Vic calls, and I get the bad news.
You do.
End of
And
my
I get the
tournament.
good news.
We're three-handed, so at least I've made the money this week. I think, assuming there are enough players. And we have this pot. I start the hand as a short stack, 5,000 chips. So what is that? Between 6 and 7 big blinds.
Yeah.
I think the play is obvious.
In the go.
And then in perk shoes here, pocket 2s against a 7 big blind shove.
Given the size of his stack, I think it's a perfectly sound call.
Yeah, I think it probably is a call.
Got,
Again,
yeah, think about the ICM. He's not just playing to bust you here. He's playing to increase his prize money.
Yeah, so I think it's probably not a bad call there with 2s. Yeah. If I'm feeling enthusiastic, I'll drop a little Equilab analysis in post-production to show whether that's a good call or not, because my range to shove there is well documented. So we can say with certainty whether that's a good call, but my intuition is it's a good call. Pot odds, you need to win 40% of the time.
So if you're turning up with ace jack.
Yeah, exactly, then he's getting the odds. Obviously, he doesn't want to see an overpair. Or does he? No, he didn't want to see an overpair. Oh my god. This is looking promising already. I am doing okay. I'm in the midfield, so what's that? 4th out of 6 remaining. Yeah. I've got started the hand with 30 big blinds.
Yep.
Let's see what happens. We have a limper from the big stack. Vic raises it up, 3 big blinds. Folds to me. I could maybe justify a 3-bet here. because ace 5 suited is the classic 3-bet bluffing hand. You got pretty good equity against almost everything. I'm going to assert that Perks having limped in there, he's highly likely to fold to a 3-bet. Not certain, but I don't see Perks calling.
But is the button raiser gonna fold to a 3-bet at that point?
Well, it is Vic, and she does know that I'm quite often full of shit. So maybe. And then the question is, if I do 3-bet, how big should I make that 3-bet? So typically, I would want to make
talking about $2,500 here at least.
At least, yeah. If I'm 3-betting, I don't think I'm making it less than 3,000. I think maybe like 3,500, something like that.
Yeah.
And given that I'm going to be putting 3,500 of my 8,000 stack in, there's becoming a strong argument just to shove. What would I do here if I had ace king? I'd want a 3-bet, but I want to put 3,000 in and leave myself 5,000 back. Maybe.
Well, you would also be first to act on the flop, so you could do the old stop and go.
Possibly. I must admit, that's not a play that I make very often. And I think actually, if we look at my stats, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 0. I'll note to self, check that in the edit. I think probably calling is the best play here, but I think shoving is possibly okay as well. Let's see what I do. I call. Perks folds.
The fold from Perks surprises me a little, given the very positive pot odds he's getting.
Yeah, so he only needs to win here 19% of the time. Which he's up against 2 opponents, so it's not a certainty that he'd be getting good odds. But if you had something good enough to limp in with, probably you need to call this, right?
If I'm there with something like King 10, I'm calling there if I'm Perks.
Yeah.
I think I'm calling pretty much with any 2, if I've already put those 300 in.
Okay, we see a flop. I flop a gut shot and a backdoor straight draw. Backdoor flush draw. And Vic flops flush draw. So I check, so always will check here. Vic bets half pot. Totally reasonable.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Your couple of things to consider is, as pairs, are your cards any good? I think the gut shot is, we know that a gut shot's not coming very often. What's a gut shot from here? About 3 to 1.
Oh no, quite long. I mean, it's less than 10% for me to make it on the turn, and it'll be less than 20% for me to make it turn and river.
That's 4 outs twice. But
yeah.
What you've got to consider are the questions of, would your 5 be good if it hit, and would your ace be good if it hit?
I'm inclined to think that the 5 and the ace would be good if they came in a good percentage of the time. More than half the time, I'm going to say I think a 5 or an ace will be good.
In that case, what's Vic sitting there with?
Well, not to get too deep into Vic's button raising range over a limper, but given that it's got things like ace 9 suited in, I think it's going to be 25% of hands. So let's have a quick look at what 25% of hands looks like. Just check I've not got PokerStars open before I open this.
Otherwise, you'll get a polite telling off.
So that's what 25% of hands looks like, but I think Vic is probably going to play slightly different. I don't think we're getting raises with things like this.
Yeah.
Really. I think probably these hands come in, though, although they might just limp in. So maybe something like this.
No, Vic never limps.
That's true. Even over limping?
He rarely does that.
Right. Okay, so let's put these low pocket pairs in. and then let me have what I've got: ace of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, and the flop 10 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, 2 of hearts. There we are. So against that range, I'm getting 42% equity. So with 42% equity, I really can't fold to a half pot bet when I only need to win 25% of the time. So I think that's a clear call. The question of if I hit an ace or a 5 on the turn, would that be good? Let's say the turn was the ace of spades. I'm now winning 72% of the time against that range.
Yeah.
Let's say the turn was the 5 of spades. I'm winning 55% of the time against that range. So
right.
I'm going to say, actually, I got that pretty much on the nose when I said they'd be good more than half the time if I hit them. Any value in the check raise bluff shove? The stack sizes aren't too bad for it.
I think there is a value in the shove if you think that. I think if you're check raise shoving here, you're looking just to take the pot down and nothing else.
What hands do you think I might check raise shove for value?
Jacks or better.
True, but they would have a good amount of the time been 3 bets pre-flop. Certainly queens, kings, and aces would have been 3 bets pre-flop 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So there's
ace 10.
Yeah, maybe ace 10 to try and defend against hearts.
That's it, really.
Yeah.
Pocket threes. No, I think pocket threes you probably play a little bit more slyly.
Possibly. I mean, if I'm ever going to shove hands like ace of diamonds, 5 of diamonds here, I have to also shove hands like pocket 2s and pocket 3s. Otherwise, every time I check raise bluff, every time I check raise the flop like this, people should just call me with anything half decent because I'm full of shit more often than not. So I guess I call here. It was a long time ago. Let's see what I do. Oh, I'll go for it. And in my own words, I'm full of shit more often than not. So, okay, you're in Vic's shoes. You need to be good 36% of the time here. You're more or less getting express odds given that you're drawn to the nuts.
And you've got the ace as well.
Yeah. So let's say Vic knew for a fact that I had ace 10 or a set here. Do you think
yes,
you should call?
Ace set, definitely not. Ace 10. Oof. I think ace 10 is absolutely dominated as well, and your only hope is to hit that flush. So if she knew factually that you've got ace 10, I'm struggling to see a call.
Here we are. So if I will only shove here with my sets and ace 10, Vic would be getting 27% equity and she needs 36. So it will be a fold.
Yeah.
Let's say I didn't play the sets that way, just answer the question about ace 10. Now Vic will be getting exactly the odds that she needs. So she knew I had top pair, top kicker, she should call. It's even worse if I had king 10 and let's say I didn't have the backdoor flush.
Yeah.
Now Vic should definitely be calling because she's going to win 45% of the time. And she only needs to win 36% of the time. So if she's not far off her pot odds, even against my value range.
If you're getting exactly pot odds, should you be calling there, or should you be going beyond the pot odds?
If you're getting pot odds that are basically exactly on the nose, accounting for everything, I don't know. Maybe you should fold. It's really tricky because if you're going to fold those situations, people are going to push you around, and that's not good for your game and for your winning chances. So if it was super close and you just decided to fold for ICM reasons or because you just think you're a good player and you'd rather keep the chips and not take a risk, I can understand that. In this particular example, given that I'm going to be bluffing or semi-bluffing a good amount of the time, Vic just needs to call, I think. And by virtue of the fact that this hand features in my losing streak video, I suspect Vic does call and I don't hit this gut shot. Let's see. Vic calls. I make a 5, but Vic makes the flush. And it's all over. So, yeah, my overall play on this hand on a scale from total fish to troubled genius. Where'd you rate it?
I can't call it too fishy, given that level of analysis that we just have. It's not a call. It's not a shove that I feel I've been making, but I think we have just demonstrated it's not by no means a bad move.
Is
So
it a profitable shove?
I don't think so.
No, I
I
think it
think
probably is. But it should be acknowledged that maybe what we're seeing here is that I'm just totally unbalanced in that spot.
yeah.
So what we're having in the middle, dubious,
We can go
Mayo
for
pot.
total genius to total dubious.
So where are you ranking this one?
I'll put it at total dubious. Right.
2nd of Feb, and I've made the cash on this one, so that's good. That's
Yeah.
something.
Given that we know that Joe's here, that's definitely taking it to 5 players or more, 6 players, I believe. So yeah, you have cashed.
I was probably at this point thinking, well, I'm a bit short stack, but there's hope, and I've won from worse spots than this. So, see what happens. Curly Joe folds, round to me in the small, 9-10 off. Not brilliant, but I think it's a clear raise here. Limping is fine too, depending on how you want to play. Let's have a look at the stack sizes. I've got
33, 35 big blinds.
Big blind 600.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
18. Yeah, so 35 small blinds, 18 big. So let's see. I imagine I limp, but if I raise it to 3 big blinds, I think that's probably okay too. I limp. Perks min raises. I only need to win 22.8% of the time. I don't know exactly what Perks' range is to make this raise out of the big blind here, but I imagine it includes some hands that are a bit roby.
What I will say about Perks, which often slips, I feel it often slips the net, is I don't think he raises that often pre-flop. He's very aggressive after the flop, but I don't think he raises too often pre-flop.
Q pre-flop statistics.
Okay. Edit.
Right. Yeah, you could be right. But in any event, I think I just have to call this. Let's see what the flop brings. Okay. Top pair for me. A set for Perks.
A good shot for you as well.
And a good shot. I'm going to check here 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when Perks bets, I suspect I'm shoving. For reasons very similar to the last hand. In fact, the stack to pot ratio was almost identical. This time I'm not bluffing as such. I do have a fairly legitimate hand.
Yeah.
And if worst comes to worst, like you say, I've got that good shot. So even if Perks has a set, I've still got a few outs. Let's see if I follow through on my post analysis. So I check. Perks bets quite small, and I shove. Perks is never going to fold this, is he? Really?
No.
Obviously, if I show up a 7-9, which is possible, then hard lines most of the time. Perks calls.
And you get the terrible, terrible news. Well, you got extra outs on the turn. Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Oh, you did, yeah.
I picked up a jack as an out.
Did, yeah.
8, 9, 10, jack, queen. Confirmed.
So, yeah.
From total genius to total dubious to total fish.
Uh, I'll put it somewhere between genius and dubious. I cannot see anything wrong with that play at all. I think it's uh, I'll put it I'll put it as a competent play.
Balls around to the Colin on the button. Sat there with 23 big blinds. Oh,
Yep.
do you know what? Why are we doing this? There we are. 23 big blinds. And I'm sat in the small blind with 7-6 suited. Colin raises it up. 3 big blinds, pretty hefty raise, but given the stack sizes, probably not unreasonable. Put yourself in my shoes against your opening range, Colin, at the risk of getting you to divulge all of your strategies and tricks.
I believe I'm a fairly tight player.
Cue Colin's pre-flop stats from the button.
Yeah.
So on the basis that what we've just seen on screen supports your view that you're a tight player, what do you think I should do?
That's not to say that I'm not in there with something like, I don't know, ace five suited. It is the button after all, and it has folded round to me.
Yeah. And what would you do if you were sat in my seat here with ace king or ace queen?
Ace king or ace queen, if I were you, I would probably ace king, I would definitely three bet. Ace queen suited, I would three bet. Ace queen, I might three bet, or I might be inclined to flat,
Yeah.
knowing that Rouge is still to come.
And given that I'm sat in 17 big blinds back, what size are these 3 bets?
I think maybe. I think you're probably shoving.
Yeah, I agree. I'd want to make it at least 12, and that would
Yeah.
be such a silly bet that the other 4 just need to go in.
Yeah, precisely. Just for the sake of the of what you got back. Gosh.
So let me explain some logic before you call me a total fish. Given that I'm going to 3-bet here with my strong hands, aces, kings, queens, ace, king, ace, queen suited.
Yeah.
I should include some bluffs in that range, because otherwise you should just fold to all those 3-bets unless you've got aces, kings, queens yourself.
Okay.
7-6 suited's a pretty good hand to bluff with, because if you've got a good hand, I've probably got a decent number of outs.
Yeah.
I may be horribly unbalanced again, but I think
What I will say though is I am a fairly tight player, and a bluff might actually get rid of me.
Save some suspense because I remember how this hand goes.
Um,
I shove.
Sixes or lower.
You need to be good 39% of the time. Give me your intuition from total genius to total fish.
Total dubious.
Total dubious. Move on. 16th of Feb. 36 big blinds. Sitting pretty. Somewhere near the bottom. But, you know, relatively even stacks. Curly Joe and Rouge out in front.
Just flick it to chip mode for now. Okay. Right. Well, I think we're talking. We are freeze out here, aren't we?
We are at 9:30 p.m. So not long
Right,
after
okay.
the end of rebuys.
Okay. Back to big blinds.
Back to big blinds.
Because I
Okay.
didn't realise it had a timestamp at the top because I'm a fish.
You're only the second biggest fish in this Zoom chat today. All right, let's roll it on round. Oh, I see this is going to get disastrous. Lord Perks, min raise. Rouge calls. Clear 3-bet. How big?
8 big blinds.
Yeah. Bit too small, but that's all right. Right. So I've got ace king. I'm looking at Vic's range to be raising over a limp and a call, so a Vic's squeeze range. Don't imagine this comes up too often, but my guess is that's pretty tight. Yep. It's not going to be 7-6 suited, is it?
It's not.
So
I think we've got to. If this were me, I would be thinking minimum jacks from Vic at this point for a squeeze.
let me tell you how I see this looking at it today from my point of view. For better or worse, this is how I see it. I want a 4-bet because even though Vic's range is tight, I think Ace King is a value 4-bet. That may or may not be true, but I believe it is. For all I think Vic's tight there, I don't think she's so tight that this couldn't be Ace Queen or Ace Jack suited or something of that ilk.
Indeed.
So I think Ace King is probably a 4-bet. If I'm going to 4-bet, I want to make it probably about 15 big blinds at least. Given that I'm out of position, I'm going to have to play this pot.
Yeah, that's the first thing that jumps out for me is that absolutely terrible position that you're in.
So do I want to make it 15 big blinds, knowing full well that I'm getting called, and have to play a pot where there's 30 big blinds in the middle and I've got 20 left?
I've got to throw it out there. Is there an argument for a fold?
Maybe. If I fold here, I'm saying that Vic is very tight to make that raise, and my belief is that Vic's not tight enough for me to fold.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I should, and I think I understand why I did it, if indeed I do it, but I think it needs some analysis to see whether that's a good move or not. It's possibly dubious. Maybe flat calling here is the best play.
I think I would be flat calling.
Let's see what I do. Maybe we're seeing why I lose so much money with Ace King.
Yeah, you have got the absolutely horrendous position there.
Folds around
and obviously Vic's calling and the handle play itself.
Don't spare my feelings, Colin. Rate that one.
I don't think much of it, to be honest. I can't see Ace King offsuit. I don't think is much better than Ace Queen suited. It's it's got a lot of potential. I think your best hope there is a 50-50. I don't think you're going to rock up against Ace Jack, Ace Queen there.
In my defence,
you may have got a fold out of it if she is sitting there with Ace Queen.
If 50-50 with fold equity is pretty good. But that, even then though, that doesn't mean that's the best way to play the pot. If what you're saying to me is that actually my only good situation there is that Vic has something like Ace Queen or Ace Jack suited or something like that.
Yeah.
And I get those hands to fold out pre, is that a good result for me?
I don't know. I'll tell you what though, from playing that hand like that.
I think everything I did, I'm going to sound like Boris Johnson here. Everything I did was principled and well motivated, and I was just trying to do my best. On and later analysis, maybe this wasn't that good. And I mean, the shove pre-flop wasn't that good. I was always going to lose chips here. It's Ace King that I cannot fold against aces, so I'm always going to lose chips. Ace King off against Vic's range, I'm in a profitable situation. And
I mean, she could turn up with queens.
Yeah, of course. But against that range, I'm in a profitable spot with Ace King against Vic's range pre. I'm convinced I'm in a profitable situation.
Yeah.
What I think I might have done is played it in such a way that when I'm ahead, I win the minimum, and when I'm behind, I lose the maximum.
Possibly, yeah.
So
I mean, there are only two hands that you don't want to see, and that's one of them, unfortunately, when the cards are turned over.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Oh, we're into mid-Feb. I'm still doing terribly. 23rd of Feb, We are four-handed. I'm short-stacked. Got less than 10 big blinds. Folds to me on the button. And let's have a quick look at something here. I made
My
this.
thought is I think that's a shove anyway.
Okay. On the button, 10 big blinds, I should be shoving. Any ace, king 10 off, queen 10 off, any pair.
So there you are. You're vindicated for a shove.
What did I actually have? Jack queen off. Jack queen off is a profitable shove at 15 big blinds from this position. Now, ICM factors do count against me. You know, it's the pays top three. There's four of us. I really don't want to finish in fourth.
However, look at the stacks of the other three. Those players might be quite content just to let the blinds keep going round and round and round until you eventually fall on your own sword.
Yeah, they might. And I think the fact that oh, so I'm feeling my editing already. The fact that there are two sensible players out of the three left, they might be quite inclined just to let me hang myself.
Yeah.
If this was three crazy players and me, I think there's an argument for me folding this because those crazy players might bust each other if I just stay out of their way for five hands.
This is true.
But we don't have three crazy players here. We have three players who range from sensible and solid to just a bit crazy.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to make a stand. Picking up the blinds here as well is not a bad result for me. It takes me from 9 big blinds to 9.8, nearly 12.
Yeah.
So the chart on my side, is ICM on my side? I don't know, but it's a shove.
I think it is, given what you know about the players.
And I run it at 10s, which is not ideal, but I've got a lot of
Could be
equity.
worse.
I've got less equity. I've got no equity. Oh, hang on.
No, you have. You got a straight draw.
Oh.
And
And I bubbled,
you bubbled. But
which ironically was my best result in about 6 weeks.
but cutting to the chase on that one, I can't say total fish and I can't even say dubious. So nothing wrong with that one. It's just it is what it is.
Here we go. Three-handed. I'm the short stack.
Interesting.
Din limps on the button. King 2 of hearts. Raise from the small blind. And I'm here on 14 big blinds with the opportunity to squeeze with pocket fours.
Do you think pocket fours is a good squeeze?
Yeah. I've got a bit of fold equity against Vic. And I've got a bit of fold equity against Din. And if I get called, I'm always going to have some outs, and I might actually be favourite. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say that this is a shove 100% of the time.
It's a tricky one.
Well,
I think I'm more inclined to get behind that call there.
Wow. Colin, I've disappointed myself with that one.
I think I agree with the way it was played.
Do you think I was spooked by Vic's tight raising range into just flat calling instead of shoving there?
It's quite possible. I mean, you've still got a decent stack behind you. I think part of it as well, the fact that maybe you're spooked by it still being above 15 big blinds, which is sort of where we have this Maginot cut-off line.
Oh, nice. I love a good World War II reference. Note to myself, edit in a map. I really think I should have shoved. Vic's range is tight, but it's not that tight. Maybe part of her motivation was I don't want to take a big risk against Vic here while our stacks are all relatively even.
Yeah. And you have got a decent stack.
I have got a decent stack. Although I think if part of my rationale was maybe I'll be able to outplay these guys, if I just keep it small. I think that was foolishly optimistic. Maybe I
Yeah,
can outplay these guys, but 20 big blinds, I'm not outplaying them.
no, you got poor position as well.
Yeah. So I think I should have shoved. But okay, I call.
That's a classic Din raise.
This is already a male pot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Messy. I don't know what Vic's got, but she's probably going to shove if she had something really genuine and more
Yeah.
flat otherwise. Big flats. Even my express odds and getting a set are pretty good here. Only need to win 13% of the time. Got a call. All right. I mean, I take back the bit where I said I was disappointed with myself. I thought it was a shove the first time round. So, all right. No, there is a rationale to this. I like it a little bit more. I'm not sure I do like my call. I think I should have shoved the first time around. But given that Vic has shown that she doesn't have aces, kings, queens, Vic's shown herself to be quite weak by just calling that bet.
Mm.
So now I probably should shove because I'm getting good fold equity against these hands. And if Din is limp re-raised a monster, okay, fair enough. I'm going to run into aces and I'm going to bust 80% of the time. But I don't know. I think this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is I do not, under any circumstances, even ignoring what he's actually got, I cannot get on board with what Din has done there.
No.
No circumstances whatsoever, even if he's got two aces.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't play two aces that way, but hats off to him if he did. All right, well, Din needs to win 28.7% of the time to make this call. Let's be generous and assume that Vic is always folding.
Yeah.
Do you think King 2 of Hearts has 28.7% equity against my range to do this crazy maneuver? Who knows what my range is to do that?
I think you're on the low end of your range here. And it's, I think worst case scenario is you're never going to be behind at any point pre-flop.
For sake of an example, let's have a look at what this looks like. Din needs to win 28% of the time. Who'd have thought it? It's probably a good call. What does it need to make it a bad call? If I'm trapping aces and kings, which I wouldn't do, does that make this a bad call? No. Am I ballsing up the analysis again? No. He only needs to be good 28% of the time, and he was good 30%. And all the ICM factors benefit him and punish me. I mean, I'm slightly shocked.
Yeah, I'm always quite dubious with a lot of these statistics. I mean, you're never going to see Phil Hellmuth call with King 2 at the World Series of Poker, and then you turn over your fours and he'll say it's a good call because he's Phil Hellmuth and that's what he does. But if the roles were reversed, you'd never be able to convince him without showing all these statistics that it was a good call.
Yeah, true. But let's not use Phil Hellmuth as the yardstick to measure the success of our players by. We're trying to get good at poker in this group.
16 World Series bracelets.
Let's see that. I cannot deny that he's an incredible poker player, but that's not the way I'm trying to play. Let's put it that way. Let's see the run out, and I'll get your verdict on this one. Pretty good so far, 78%. Oh, it's looking good.
We'll get a queen or a king. Yep, there it is.
Ouch. Thanks, Poker Stars. That was half the chips in play there.
Mm.
But, am I going to cry into my soup because I lost with fours against King 2? Not really.
Yeah, you should. I would.
It's a shame, isn't it? It is a shame. But just one of those things. I would like to say, if I played the hand again, I would play it the same way, but I wouldn't. I would have just shoved pre the first time around. Given
Mm.
how we did play it, it's quite creative and interesting.
Well,
And
yeah.
go on.
I think this is really illustrating the point of this video then, because it's showing you something that you would have done differently.
Yeah, for better or worse, I would have. All right, give me a rating, Colin.
Um, how it went down or how you would do it.
How I played as it stands.
I actually quite like how you played it. I would say it's somewhere twixt genius and fishy.
9th of March, not Jan. 20 to 10, 20 to 10 p.m. 6 players left, and I am amongst the short stacks. In fact, I'm just about the shortest of the short stacks.
Yeah.
I started the hand on between 12 and 13 big blinds. In fact, let's have a look at it in big blinds. And min raise from Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
Call on the button on the cutoff from big. Call in the small blind. I mean, this is never a fold, but
No, I think it's a call.
could it be a shove? Do I ever want to shove in this spot? Yes. If I had aces, kings, queens, ace, king suited, I would shove. So
Yeah.
should I be including some bluffs? Yes. Is Jack 10 suited a good bluffing hand? Yes. Am I probably horribly unbalanced because I play too many of these bluffing hands in this spot? Probably. But I think it's a shove. If I was faced with this hand today, without being able to see Rouge's cards, I would put all my chips in.
Right. Okay.
Let's see what I do on the day. Lovely. Well, that can't be a bad play. It's definitely positive equity to call. Is it the best play? I don't know. I think probably shoving is better. But let's see. I flop 2 overcards and a flush draw.
Yep.
Damien checks. I check. Rouge bets half pot. Folds around. I need to be good 25% of the time here.
And you got 46%.
I've got 46% against tens, exactly. This harks back to the early hands we looked at about this whole check raise and the flop business. I think this is a clear check raise shove for me.
Yeah.
I've got 2 overcards and a flush draw. Rouge could be in there on dirt. If he's got ace king off, for example, I really want to get that to fold.
The only thing, well, I've got a couple of things to say. Really, I mean, check raise shove on the face of it seems fine. However, many players would be pot committed by that. So your check raise shove is only ever a value shove at this point.
Yes, it's going to be quite tricky.
However,
I'm getting any fold equity.
I have seen players at this game fold when they've already got like 90% in the pot, 90% of their chips in a pot.
Yeah. Also, given that I'm going to call this and pot commit myself, is there some argument for saying I just want all the chips in, so at least I get maximum value if I make my flush?
Yeah, I think I don't think that's a bad shout, but that's as I say, the caveat is the check raise shove is only ever a value bet in this instance.
Yeah, exactly. It's very rare that I'm going to get a fold. Let's see what I do. I shove, and Rouge only needs to be good 20% of the time. So what should he be calling with? Probably should be calling with ace king off.
Yeah.
Like, what are my value hands here? Then they're nines and semi bluffs, nines, fours, and semi bluffs. Okay, Let's see what happens. I guess Rouge calls. I have 46% equity. Should be winning.
And you've got everything in at the right time, so you can't really do much else.
Nope.
I would rather get my chips in on the flop than on the turn if I had those, if I had that combination of cards.
Agreed. All right, give me a verdict.
Somewhere in the middle. It's not a million miles. Nothing that I'd really do differently there.
We are in mid-March,
Yep.
four-handed. I'm short-stacked.
We've established this is good at 15 big blinds.
It's good
If
at
you're
15
shoving
big
here.
blinds, yeah. ICM factors might suggest playing a bit tighter. I don't know.
Look at my stack.
Yeah. So I assume that I shove all in. Oh,
Nope.
okay. This is quite interesting. This is defensible. I did start the hand with like 13 big blinds, so it's not like I'm necessarily in a shove or fold situation.
On top of that, you've got me sitting there with 13 big blinds.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're going to play, you're not going to call this. You're going to shove or fold. I would think. Maybe you might call occasionally, but not often. I remember this hand because what happens is you fold and Rouge cut flat. Now, in my mind, I've made an assumption that Rouge is not flatting here with those kind of hands. That something like Ace King, Ace Queen, he would have 3-bet. Maybe he's slightly worried about the fact that Damien, Lampin, Vampin, is sat there with a big stack and he doesn't want to end up in a conflict where he might end up busting here on the bubble.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why he called. I'm not sure. But in my mind, playing the hand, I didn't have Ace King off in his range because I thought he would have 3-bet. Damien folds. And we get this flop. So, Rouge.
Yeah, I remember how this hand goes.
Rouge checks. I think I should probably check this back. The stack to pot ratio was quite small. Like 6 big blinds, I've only got 10.5 big blinds left to bet. The chips are going to go in at some point.
Yeah.
But I think it's a better strategy for me to check and invite Rouge to bluff than it is for me to bet and fold out his bluffs.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way.
How often does he bluff, though?
Not all the time or anything, but often enough that I think it's worth me trying to... Well, let's put it this way. Let's say all those times that Rouge has an ace, I'm likely to lose a big pot and I'm probably going to go bust here. So why not at least get value from those times that Rouge is bluffing by letting him bluff? We'll see what I do, but I assume I check. I do check back. Okay. Pick up a good shot, which is nice.
Yep.
Rouge bets. Now, this is not great, but I've checked to try and induce a bluff from him. So maybe this is a bluff. Maybe this is King 10, King 9.
King Queen.
Yeah, King Queen. That would be a hell of a bluff.
Yeah. No, but it could be that is a hand that is within his range.
Yeah. I have to call here because I beat anything apart from King Queen or an ace or the weird full houses and so on.
Yeah.
So it's a call. And I river the straight.
Yeah.
Rouge bets 3 big blinds. What would you do?
It's horrible. It's hard to it's hard to say what I would do because I am quite prejudiced by my prior knowledge. However, I might. There's an argument for in for a penny, in for a pound. So therefore, you got to shove. There's also an argument for flat calling, but that leaves you, in for a penny, in for 79p, and most of your stack committed, and it's a long way back there to get to me who's on 13 big blinds.
Yeah.
So I think ICM factor, the fact that you are likely to be winning, but you're not holding the nuts, and there are many hands that beat you, I would probably shove.
Yeah. Two folds, round to perks. Min raises. I start the hand with 8.5 big blinds. Your
I
thoughts?
presume you get them all in here.
I mean, I assume so. Maybe there is an argument for calling and trying to play some kind of post flop, but I do have some amount of respect for Perks' post flop ability. Playing this in position, maybe there's something to be said for that, but shoving can't be bad.
Yeah.
Definitely positive equity to shove. And I do shove. Perks calls. Is that a good call?
I think it's fairly loose.
Needs to win 37.2% of the time. Let's give it a quick equilab. Queen Jack offsuit versus my shoving range with 7 big blinds from the big, which, let's say for sake of example, looks something like this. Might not be exactly that, but I doubt I'm a million miles away.
Yep.
40% equity.
Yeah, actually went up.
So against an example range that's probably not too far off the mark, Perks would have been getting 41% equity. He only needed 37, so I think that's a good call. And he does indeed make the call. 58% favourite. I'm favourite, so I should win this pot, right?
No? Have you ever played this game?
That's a decent flop. We're dead on 50-50. Not anymore. Screw you, Perks. You're going down.
Yeah. Oh.
Ace Queen versus Ace King. This is a good spot to be in, right?
You'd imagine so.
Wild Geese limps in. Lord Perks min raises. Call on the button by Vic. And it folds round to me.
Now you're woefully out of position.
Yeah. 3-betting is not out of the question. If I'm going to 3-bet, I should make it at least 8 big blinds. And there is some advantage to making it about 8 big blinds as well, which is that if Arthur or Perks shove, I can call that for the pot odds and it'll probably pressure Vic out the pot.
Yeah.
And if I do that and Arthur or Perks shove and Vic reshoves, I can fold without worrying about it too much. Having said all of that, calling here is obviously positive equity as well, and probably I should call some of the time, but I'm guessing a 3-bet. If I 3-bet shove, I'm going to disappoint myself a little bit because against Vic, that is not ideal.
I can't see an argument for a 3-bet shove when you've got one of the healthiest stacks at the table.
Yeah. If I 3-bet shove on the principle that Arthur is probably going to fold and Vic is probably going to fold, and I'm going to play this 30 big blinds pot against Perks, but I might be ahead. Let's see what I do.
I'll tell you what, before you do that, one other question.
Yep.
Let's imagine you make it 8 big blinds.
Yep.
Perks shoves all in. Well, you've got the pot odds to call, so you can't fold.
I just have to call.
You just have to call and hate it.
Call and hate it. Exactly. Okay, I flat call. Probably, again, for all the reasons we discussed. I think that's probably okay. Let's see what we flop. Oh,
Oof.
That's quite interesting. I get 2 pair. My strategy says I should always check here, so I check. Perks bets half pot. Vic calls.
Is it time for a raise? Or yeah, it's definitely time for a raise with those 2 clubs on board.
we've already established that I check raise the flop far too light. So when I've got top two pair like this, I probably should be check raising the flop. I probably want to check raise enough so that Perks is pot committed.
Yeah.
If I was feeding very sneaky, let's have a little look at this.
Would you do the grass feed?
I probably should min raise, because then if Perks shoves and Vic calls, I can shove. Whereas if I make any raise above min raise, if Perks shoves and Vic calls, I can only call.
Yeah.
Oh, I raised slightly more than min. That's such a bad play. I really should have made it exactly 8.38 big blinds. Just in case Perks shoves and Vic calls. But Perks shoves, ultimately he's got top pair, top kicker, he's short stacked. I can't criticise him at all for that. Vic gets out the way. I can't fold this, right? If I run it as sevens or queens or aces or something, so be it.
Nothing that you could ever fold there. I mean, there's no way you could ever fold that there.
Nah, I'd have called with queen two for the pot odds.
Yeah.
Correctly, I should add. All right. Well, Perks, you bust me last week. I've got to get you this week, right? He's picked up out.
Wrong.
Wow. Give me a grade, Colin.
I think that's closer to genius than dubious. I think you played it just fine.
Lord Perks on the button. Pocket jacks, 14 big blinds. Making about 2.5 big blinds, right? I'm digging that.
I would have gone more than that. I would have gone at least 3.
I would as well, but Perks likes to min raise pre-flop, so I'm not going to criticise him for that.
Well, it does keep the mystery going. I mean, that could be jack, so it could be jack 10.
Could be jack 2. I'm leaving that in the edit.
Fair enough.
All right. Rouge folds. This is not amazing, but I just think they have to call here.
Yeah,
my pot odds are pretty good.
I won't even think about not calling there.
Right, put it this way. I need to be good 18% of the time. Probably should be good a bit better than that because I'm going to have to play the whole hand out of position. And even when I'm totally dominated, I'm getting 12%. So this is a call. And I do call.
And you've still got plenty of chips to get away from it as well.
Yeah. And I flop top pair.
Excellent.
Check.
This is going to go your way. I can sense it right now.
Do you know what? Because this was only last week, I remember this as well, and I had a very good feeling about this one. I checked because I always check in that spot. Perks bets 1 big blind.
Because that's what Perks does.
Feeding me grass.
This is old strategy Perks, not new strategy Perks.
Yep. There is some kind of argument here for check raising, but I think letting Perks continue to bluff those times that he's behind is probably the best move.
Mm-hmm.
So I flat.
I also think that with the flat call, there is there's also the argument that you never quite know where you're at in the hand. I'll tell you what, though, closing words from you, seeing as this is your analysis.
Oh, I try my best, but sometimes I play like a total fish.
Yeah.
If I was a better poker player, I'd have a bit of a deep dive into the histories, and I would challenge some of these assumptions that I've been making. I lost a big pot here because I assumed that Lord Perks would be very happy to shove on the river against me. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's not true.
You could have had ace king in that situation as well.
Well, that's my belief. But that's just my belief. I lost a big pot against Rouge earlier when I just didn't believe that he wouldn't have 3-bet me pre-flop with ace king or ace jack or ace 10. But I think that was obviously an erroneous assumption.
No, it's yeah. I think my final word on things is sometimes, I mean, for me personally, I hate going with stats. I would be more inclined, and this is also erroneous at times, but to go with my heart and my gut over cold, careless numbers, because numbers don't have a vested interest in what you do, but your head has got a vested interest in what you do. And I would rather listen to what's going on and how my mind is talking to me and considering what the other player's got rather than considering, well, I only need to be right 44% of the time to turn a profit.
Well,
That, to me, I think in order to for those stats to make sense, you need to play a hell of a lot more.
yeah, you're right. If you want to really depend on the statistics, you want to achieve the statistical long term. I don't
Yeah.
play enough poker to achieve the statistical long term. Maybe my philosophy is trust the numbers and they'll see you good more often than not. But who
I think
knows?
I think you I think maybe you put a bit too much faith in the numbers, and perhaps you should be, given that you don't play enough to justify the numbers, maybe you should start listening to your gut a bit more.
Maybe. Can I pretend to be a YouTuber for a second?
Please do.
If you think that Colin is right and we should play with our heart, post it in the comments. Click like, click subscribe. And until then, we'll see you when I next have enough enthusiasm for this. Adieu.
Adieu.